live. NDSU pulls the upset. He said he will be rushing the field and getting in Deion's face, so we are going to be holding him to that. But it is just Grant and I right now. Early indications from Ethan said that the Denver airport was filled with Bison fans here. So we got week 1, which kicks off tomorrow. College football is going to be in full swing come tomorrow. We got NDSU-Colorado out in the Twin Cities where Grant is. We have Minnesota and North Carolina, another good preseason matchup, a game that I really think whoever wins that game is going to be set up for, in their terms, a successful season. And the other one, I think that's how it's a good game that you're going to be able to judge on how each team's season is going to go.
Correct, because both teams, Dylan, need this game. The Gophers need it because in terms of the Big Ten this year, they have a tough schedule. They got Penn State, USC, of course, Iowa, Wisconsin. If I'm not mistaken, also Michigan.
Yes, they do.
And Nebraska. So there's some tough games for the Gophers. And then North Carolina, you lose your quarterback. And I think they have 3 or 4 new starters on the offensive line as well. Like Quinyon Hampton, star running back, but it's a lot to replace. And Carolina on paper has recruited well, but they're not developing these players, and that defense is still bottom 10 in America. So they need to figure that out. So to your point, search.
You mean they are DFL?
Yeah, DFL. Yes, thank you, Tyler, for that DFL. If folks can't remember, that's dead fucking last. But like I said, sure, it's the first game of the year, but this has a lot of, if you ask me, mid-October vibes to it, with how important it is to get the season started off for these guys.
Yeah, indeed. We're not going to really touch a lot on that game. A couple of congratulations. Congratulations to former NDSU Bison Trinity Titan Jake Kubis, undrafted out of NDSU, made the Giants 53-man roster, the first Trinity Titan to make an active NFL 53-man roster. So congratulations to Jake. Had a couple. We had one. Kyle Steffes made it to a camp back in 2006. He was in the Jets camp. They actually ended up signing Thomas Jones, and he had to be the casualty because of that. And then back in 1987, here, Grant, this is we're going way back to the NFL strike. Todd Wandler played for the Vikings as a replacement player. So a little bit of Trinity football trivia for you on a Wednesday that'll be dropped on a Thursday.
Well, so as I like to say in the industry, that's a Fun Fact Friday recorded on a Wednesday, hit the streaming services on Thursday.
Correct. That is live on Wednesday. We have to add that in there too.
We have to add that in there too. Yes, we do. So that's pretty exciting, pretty cool. We're also going to be we got a loaded episode here. We've got the AFC and NFC West preview here. That's the last of the divisions that we covered, and then we also have the ACC preview. We're going to name our 12 playoff teams and national championship matchup and national champion winner. And then we're going to wrap up here. We're going to do curveball of the week, and then we're going to end the show with our week 1 preview, our week 1 game of the week. We're going to talk NDSU-Colorado. Spoiler alert, that's mine. I don't know what Grant's is yet, but I already have called dibs on it. So we're gonna preview that at the end of the show. So hang tight here. But Grant, we're gonna start in the NFL since the 53-man rosters were dropped. We're gonna go knock out our AFC and NFC West predictions here, and we'll start in the AFC because A comes before N, alphabetically. So makes sense.
In the 4 spot in the AFC West is the Las Vegas Raiders. And, on paper, I don't entirely hate the Raiders roster, but their quarterback situation is a disaster. And I just don't trust Gardner Minshew enough. I think he can win you a couple of games, but I think it's going to bounce around between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew throughout. and they're the interior of that the tackle situation for the Raiders is a question mark in my eyes. And if they aren't protecting those two quarterbacks blindside, they're in for a long year. I don't like the Antonio Pierce, the Raider rules that he had, as Grant would say, got lucky, not to open up a wound on Grant, ruined his Christmas. But
still bitter about that.
He did a great job of galvanizing that team after Josh McDaniels got fired and kind of bringing some good energy. But you can do that in a short span. I don't like the way he's carried himself to start, or now that he is the full-on head guy. I think you need to be a little bit more professional, more head coach presidential than the way he is acting. I think I don't like my head coaches talking. Yeah, we've got the Raider rules for Mahomes. It's like you've won 4 games. Shut up. And you're going to take last this year. You don't have a quarterback. You're going to end up trading Devontae Adams. Just go on the field and play hard. That should be your focus if you're Antonio Pierce. In the 3 spot and a wild card. Now, we've been very critical of Sean Payton on this show, and I think rightfully so. He has proven, especially the last year, where he was trying to always win the post-game press conference, the trolling, the just constant bad mouth. Everything was everybody else's fault but his. But I think he finally has a quarterback in Bo Nix that they're going to take some lumps, but I think he is going to be good enough. And as the season progresses, I think he's perfect for Sean Payton's offense. But I think they're 3, and I think they're one of the new teams as a wild card here. And in the 2 spot, I gotta go with the Los Angeles Chargers. Jim Harbaugh brought in. Herbert's finally going to have some good coaching. He's not going to be coached by gym teachers, as Cowherd would say. They completely revamped that offense. They got rid of the receivers. The attitude in Los Angeles right now under Coach Harbaugh is offensive linemen are weapons, and they're going to utilize it. They're going to take a lot of pressure off Justin Herbert. They're going to play a more complementary style of football, and they're going to win some games. Being the last place team in the AFC West last year, their schedule sets up nicely for them. And I like the Chargers to be a wild card team. And in first place, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, there's really nothing we really need to explain at all about this. As long as Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid are still wearing the red and gold on Sundays, you don't put anybody else other than the Chiefs in first place in the AFC West.
Well said, Dylan. And we're going to have a lot of agreement with our predictions here, and running up, in last place. Again, I agree. It's the Las Vegas Raiders, and just like with a lot of the things that you said, the attitude that Antonio Pierce is bringing in, I think that's cool and that's cute, and it can work for 6 games. But I don't think it works. I don't think it works for a whole season. And the receiver spot, okay, Devontae Adams, he's 32. He's still good, but he's not who he was. Jacoby Myers, I don't think he's a true number 2. I think he's more of a number 3. And also, you talked about the weak tackle spot. I also know they lost one of their better offensive linemen this year. I think he went to the Jets. I can't remember if he was a guard or a tackle, but you lose that. You don't replace them at all in the draft. You bring in Christian Wilkins. On paper, Christian Wilkins is a nice player, but I saw him get stoned last year twice against the Kansas City Chiefs. And whenever the Dolphins needed a big play, he was nowhere to be seen. So they overpaid for him. You still only have Max Crosby. I really don't like their secondary at all. And like you said, their quarterback is going to be Gardner Minshew. Well, Shane Steichen is not on this coaching staff. What Shane Steichen did with him last year in Indianapolis is incredible. And actually, if you think about it, Shane Steichen's not getting talked about enough for what he's done these last 2 years in the NFL with Jalen Hurts and Gardner Minshew. And when you don't have that quarterback like they don't have, your team is eventually going to fall apart. And I think they're going to come in last place, and they're probably going to be taking Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers at the top of the draft next year, because you can't go on and say Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew are our people, are our guys, especially in a division now where the top 3 teams have a quarterback, and that brings me to number 3, the Denver Broncos. I don't have as much confidence as you do, Dylan, with them being a playoff team. I think they're going to be much improved. They're going to win some games, and they're going to beat someone at the end of the year who's going to cause them to either miss the playoffs or go from a 1 to a 3 or a 3 to a 4 seed. Bo Nix and those rookies, they've looked good in the preseason, but once you get some actual game film on them and the speed of the regular season game, it's going to slow them down a little bit. But Denver is going to be better, and Sean Payton is a good head coach. I don't care that the Jets beat him last year in the Nathaniel Hackett game for Aaron Rodgers. Denver got better with Sean Payton, and now Bo Nix. They're going to be just fine. And the number 2?
Well, and not to mention, though, too, is Zach Wilson, and I understand it's preseason, but it's the best Zach Wilson has ever looked at all.
Oh, 100%. And Zach Wilson can sit back and he can tell Bo Nix, okay, these are all the things I did. Everything I just told you right now, don't even think about doing that, because it was all wrong. But Zach Wilson, he never had a chance. He was drafted by a defensive head coach in New York. When Nathaniel Hackett's your OC in year 3, that doesn't do much, because Hackett was carried by Rodgers and Devonta Adams in Green Bay. So now he's going to have some good coaching. He can say, hey, there's the mistakes I made. And if you need Zach in a pinch, honestly, with Sean Payton for maybe 2 to 3 games in case Bo Nix is injured, I think Denver can compete with that. But then again, the number 2 team, I'm with you, Dylan. I like the Los Angeles Chargers. Again, I'm not quite as high in them as a playoff team, but there will be much improved. And those games where we just sit back and we're like, that's the Chargers, we're not going to be saying that this year. Because, not to mention, with you bringing in Jim Harbaugh as your head coach, but Jesse Minter as your defensive coordinator, you're not going to have those lapses like they had with Brandon Staley in there. I don't like this roster as much as I like the Niners roster when Harbaugh took that over. There's still some holes and some pieces they got to fill, but they're going to fill it. And in 2 years, or maybe even next year, 2025, this Chargers team is going to be a team, and you see them on the schedule where you're like, oh, I don't want to play them. And you really don't want – you're not going to want to play them in December when everyone's banged up and you're at 85% max. But Harbaugh, he's the second best coach in this division, and they have the second best quarterback. So it's kind of fitting, Dylan. When we've listed off these teams, the team with the worst head coach and the worst quarterback is 4th place, and you go on your way up. So again, that leads me to number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. Like you said, Dylan, it's pretty simple. Best quarterback, best coach. And even though they won the Super Bowl last year, you get this feeling that they weren't satisfied because the offense was extremely subpar and inconsistent last year. For the first half of the whole year, they could go 20-20, but then they couldn't finish in the red zone. And then after week 9, it was all self-inflicted wounds. You go out, you get Hollywood Brown, you draft Xavier Worthy, you bring Juju back for pennies. They're going to try to revamp who they are. And just actually probably one of the more underrated defenses in the NFL. They're bringing a lot of those young guys back. You re-sign Chris Jones. I think they're going to look to take their defense to another level and prove that last year wasn't a fluke. So, like I said, I think the Chiefs winning the AFC West. It's pretty simple, and they're going to be the 1 or the 2 seed this year in the AFC again.
Yeah. Oh, probably. And let's go over to the NFC West. And in the 4th spot, I have the Cardinals. There's just not much hope there. They're just one of those irrelevant franchises in the NFL, forgotten franchises in the NFL. Kyler Murray, I'm not sold on. I'm not sold on Jonathan Gannon as the head coach. Are they going to be able to protect Kyler Murray? They got a nice piece in Marvin Harrison. They have nice weapons, but if you can't contain him or if you can't keep him upright,
It's going to be a long season in the desert for the Cardinals. In the 3 spot, I got the Seahawks. Pete Carroll has stepped down, bringing in Mike McDonald. I think they're a couple of years away. Geno was solid last year. He wasn't what he was his first year as the starter in Seattle, and kind of seen him take some steps back. He's been beat up a couple of times. They've got a nice running game. I think they're going to be a 500 team, but I think they're just going to miss the playoffs. Defensively, they're still solid, but in the end, the quarterbacks that are ahead of Geno are Matt Stafford and Brock Purdy, and that's going to be the difference. In the 2 spot, I have the Rams again. Last year everybody kind of thought that they put all their chips to the table back in 21 to go win the Super Bowl, and then 22 they took a step back. Not many people had high expectations for the Rams last year, and they went into the playoffs, had played a really good team in Detroit, a very emotional game. And they were a couple of possessions away, or a couple of coaching decisions away from beating Detroit.
They should talk about not finishing in the red zone. That was the story of that game for the Rams.
It was. And then I believe there was like a 4th and short that Sean McVay decided to punt for it and said that he should have kicked it, or should have went for it instead. And then Detroit was able to run out the clock. But they're going to be just fine. They've got some, they've drafted really well the last few years. They got Blake Corum. They signed their offensive line has been revamped. They hit it last year with those 2 guards. The outside, the exterior offensive line is still a little bit of a question mark, but if they're able to run between the tackles and the 2-headed monster that they have with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, I think it's going to be enough to take some pressure off Stafford, where he's not going to have to drop back and throw the ball 40 times a game. And I also think that's when Sean McVay's offense is clicking the most, is when they're able to have that zone running scheme clicking and going on all cylinders. And in the 1 spot is the team that won it last year, was the 1 seed in the NFC, is the 49ers. That Ayuk situation is going to get figured out. Debo is going to be a player. McCaffrey, I think the nice thing with them is, we talk about teams that, say there's only 1 ball. How are they going to get them there? Kyle Shanahan does a great job. And I also think he does a good job is because he realizes Christian McCaffrey is what makes that offense go. And he does a good job of kind of limiting the touches, so where McCaffrey stays fresh. That was the knock on him when he was in Carolina, is he got beat up, he got hurt all the time, and wasn't able to finish out the season. Shanahan does a good job of getting the ball distributed to everybody. I didn't even mention George Kittle. And then they just drafted Ricky Pearsall. So the 49ers are going to be just fine again. So that's who I have for my NFC West. Grant, who do you got?
So coming up in the rear, again, we agree it's the Arizona Cardinals. If there was an award for teams who tried hard and played hard, they would get it under Jonathan Gannon, but there's still a lot of holes, on this roster. Like you said, Dylan, Marvin Harrison Jr., he's a nice piece. There's no other skilled players around him, at least on the outside. I like drafting young Trey Benson. He's going to be a good player for him here in a little bit, because James Conner, he's a little long in the tooth. Trey McBride could potentially be a nice tight end here, but that's a lot of what ifs. With them, and your point, the offensive line is still an issue. And are we sold on Kyler? Are we not sold on Kyler? And then, their defense, they still got a ways to go with that. They drafted that defensive tackle / defensive end from Missouri in the 1st round, but even then they traded a 2022 third round pick they had to Kansas City the other day. So he was underperforming. So where's that pass rush going to come? And if you remember Jonathan Gannon's defense, heavy reliance on the front 4. And I think that, what do they only have? Was it 20 sacks last season? It was not good. And it's not going to get better this year. So they'll again come in 4th place. Are they going to win more than 3 games? Yes. I think they'll probably be like a 5-12 team, but like I said, they'll be better, but they're still going to be in last place. And then third place.
One thing I will say about the Cardinals is because this is how it's been under Kyler Murray, is they will start off hot. They might start the year 3-1, 4-2, something like that, and then they falter off because Kyler doesn't take good enough care of his body. He's lazy in the film room, and it just wears down. I think by the end, you're probably right. Well, they might start out 4-2, but by the end of the year, they'll be 5-12.
And then Call of Duty is going to come out, and that's when it'll all go downhill from there with him.
Double XP weekend. They're playing the 49ers in Levi Stadium, and Kyler's 3 of 25 for with four interceptions, negative 13 rushing yards,
and two passing touchdowns, but they're both to Travarius Ward.
Yeah. Well, so you know what? Timeout this is kind of low hanging fruit. We're just picking on the little guy. This is easy here. So because I don't even know any Cardinal fans. Actually, I do. I have cousins that are, but I don't know if they're watching this. So we don't outside of maybe 2 or 3. Do we even know if the Arizona Cardinals have fans? So we're gonna table the Cardinals hate because it's too easy.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay, and you know what? Maybe we introduce a new segment for the football season. Maybe we have a segment every week where we say something nice about the Arizona Cardinals.
I like that. Can I get started right now?
Nope. Week 1. Week 1.
Oh, okay. Also,
Dylan, we got to do it game by game.
Oh, what they did nice, from the last game, or just nice about the Arizona Cardinals in general?
No, from the last game, yes.
Oh, okay. So how about here next week, since they didn't play a game, can we say something we like about just the Cardinals franchise, and then week 2 we can say something nice from their game before?
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
There we go.
Also, Dylan, on the TV right now, just of course I'm not listening, but they got the Michigan-Ohio State game on from just this past November.
Who won that game?
That would be the boys in maize and blue, and JJ McCarthy just threw the most impressive touchdown pass I've ever seen. That one to Roman Wilson.
Roman Wilson? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Just threaded the needle there.
That was just absolutely ridiculous. And not much those 2 Ohio State defenders could do. Besides actually turn around and maybe make a play on the ball, but that's besides the point.
That just shows JJ McCarthy, because I watched he was meeting with the media that Monday after the game, and he talked about they asked him about that touchdown pass, and he talked about how that was a film study. As I don't remember who the linebacker was, but he said that if he ever turns his shoulders and starts running back, he's not turning around, so you're free to throw it. And that's just a heads-up play by JJ of realizing it, having the presence of mind, throwing it, and scoring a touchdown.
Now, I know this doesn't matter because Michigan won the whole thing. But in this game, Ohio State was 2. Was that just because they beat Notre Dame on the road?
That and, the whole them crying about stealing their signs and things of that nature,
Oh, okay.
It was Michigan against the world. We don't. No, sign stealer was out, and I'm not gonna say a whole lot about it. Other than Connor Stallions is an American hero. His only fault was that he loved Michigan so much, and college teams would love to have somebody that loved the University of Michigan as much as Connor Stallions did, and he's the Michael Jordan of sign stealing. That's all we're gonna say, Grant. Back, the floor is yours. Since you brought it up, you walked into. I know you said you didn't want to bring this up, but you set yourself up on that one.
That one wasn't bad. I've been annoyed with you from much more before. That one wasn't bad. So
you have also told me that I'm the first Cowboys fan that has a brain. So your words, correct. Not mine. No. You know what?
I would like to comment on both of those things right there. What you just said about Michigan and Connor Stallions, I had no problem with, because you said worse, and there's other times before where I was like, I'm going to pound my head against a wall, but I could live with that one. And yes, of all the Cowboy fans I've met in my life, you are the most down to earth and tolerable.
Thank you.
Yes. Number 3, the Seattle Seahawks. Mike McDonald. Is it McDonald, right? Yeah, because there's McDaniel and McDonald. I just get those two mixed up. I don't really think there's going to be much of a difference between this team with him and Pete Carroll. I think they're going to be a little more aggressive on defense, and they're going to blitz a little more. They're not going to play that Seattle 6, like Julian Edelman likes to call it, all the time, where they just sit back and they react in their zone. In a way, I kind of almost don't get this coaching hire, because you get rid of a defensive-minded head coach to bring in a defensive-minded head coach. And you paid Geno Smith last year in the offseason. I think you're like, well, we can't admit that it was wrong this year, so we're going to roll with him for another season. And that's the reason why I think they're going to finish in third. I think they got some nice pieces around there. I would like them to kind of start to slowly retool this offense on the outside, because Tyler Lockett's getting older. DK Metcalf seems to just not be the same player that he was, besides last year, that Thursday night when he ran for at 23 miles an hour. By the way, he still lost that game to Dallas. So cool story for you there, DK. And then the tight end position, they're okay. Kenneth Walker is going to be a stud. They're going to get him the ball a lot, but you need 2 backs in this league nowadays.
They have Kenneth Walker too still.
Yep. Yeah, I think I just said that. I wish they would get another running back, because
they got Zach Charbonnet.
Charbonnet, well. That's right. So get Charbonnet the ball a little more, because if they use Walker too much, they're going to run him into the ground, and it's going to hurt his future. But Seattle, they're going to be tough. They're going to compete in a lot of games. I think they're going to end up again around that 9-8 mark. Are they the 7 seed going into week 18? Are they the 8 seed? They'll be right there, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think they're going to miss the playoffs this year and finish third in the NFC West. Dill, this is where it gets interesting for me. I actually have the Niners coming in second place.
Ooh.
It's not because
Grant,
I don't, and it's
Grant
it's
with
not
the
because
juicy change up.
It's not because I don't like their roster and I dislike the way they play. I actually love the way they play. If I was a head coach in the NFL, I would want to run my organization and my team the way Kyle Shanahan runs his team and his offense, specifically. But what worries me the most about this Niners team is the amount of guys who are missing training camp right now. With how detailed Shanahan, I understand he's got a year and 6-7 games being a starter, and he's comfortable with Ayuk and Debo and Kittle and Christian. But you're not out there and you're not practicing and your body's not used to playing football. I just worry there could be some soft tissue injuries coming with this team going forward, because it always seems like the Niners are always hurt. I don't know if they fired their medical staff yet, but they need to, because they're always just banged up. And with how physical they are, and with how much people don't practice anymore in the NFL, I do worry that this calf issue that McCaffrey has is going to cause him to miss a game. Ayuk is going to come back after being a hold in, and he might have a tweaked hamstring. Trent Williams wants a new contract. We know how important he is out there. He's an absolute animal, but he's also 35 years old. If you're not out there getting your body right, I just worry there's going to be a couple soft tissue injuries that might catch up to him, and that are going to cause him to lose a game or two. That'll be the difference in this division. And also just the fact that you bring in Brandon Staley into your organization as a defensive analyst / assistant to the head coach, he always just brings bad juju, if you ask me. This isn't his run in Los Angeles when he was the DC for that COVID year when they were the number 1 defense in the NFL. They're still going to be a damn good team. They're going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they win the division, because I think that belongs to the Los Angeles Rams. And I like McVay more as a head coach, and I like Matt Stafford more as a quarterback than what they have in San Francisco. And I think, Dylan, last year you brought up how they put all the chips in the middle of the table to win that Super Bowl in 21. Having to reset their roster and having all these young rookies last year is actually what they needed as a coaching staff, because they could go back to being football coaches. They could teach the game to their young players. They could groom them. They could develop them. They could build a culture where they really start from the ground up with Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua. Like you said, you draft Blake Corum this year. Tyler Higbee's going to come back from that ACL tear probably around late October, November. You still have Cooper Kupp. And then on the defensive side, you draft Jared Verse, the other defensive tackle from Florida State too. I think you got Kobe Turner there. Just a lot of young, fast guys on defense. And I think McVay's happy again. And I think that's going to take them over the top. And the Rams are going to be NFC West champs this year.
Wow. So Grant throwing in a curveball here early here with the Rams winning the NFC West. Do you have the 49ers making the playoffs?
I do. And they are my 5 seed. So they are
okay.
Kind of all those years not all those years, but in 2022 when Dallas made the playoffs because Philadelphia won the division, the 49ers are going to be on the road playing a 4 seed that they should beat the brakes out of in the first round.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that wraps up all of our NFL divisional previews here. We will have our playoff predictions and Super Bowl winner next week before we have week 1 in the NFL here. So let's go down to the college. We still have one more college conference to preview here. So, and this one's going to be a shorter one just because of time here. We're just picking for the ACC. We're picking our conference championship matchup and the winner here. This is a division I think if you mention 5, 6, or 7 teams, I wouldn't be shocked. I think Miami, NC State's going to be good. Virginia Tech's going to be good. Miami, Florida State, who just lost. Georgia Tech, I don't think is going to be ready to compete yet. Even a team like a Louisville, whose schedule sets up pretty nice for them this year. Clemson, there's a handful of teams here that it truly is a crapshoot here in the ACC. But my conference championship prediction here, and I've bounced back and forth about 5 or 6 different ways. I had Virginia Tech early, and then I bounced. It's like, I don't know if I want to do that. I had NC State in there. It's like, I don't know if I want to do that. So I'm probably going to get some hate for this. Whatever. This might be the new Falcons. I'm going to go with the Clemson Tigers playing in the ACC championship here. I think Clemson, they still have a really good roster. Dabo has an identity. I know he gets a lot of hate for not embracing the transfer portal, but he feels like he's got enough guys. And for the most part, it does work. The big thing with Clemson these last few years is that the quarterback play hasn't been what it was since Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson left. Can they get that out of Cade Klubnik? I think it's enough to get to the conference championship, and playing Clemson is and this is a big year for Mario Cristobal in Miami, but I think Miami is going to go out and find a way to get it done. I think Cristobal finally has a good enough offensive line to get them over the hump. Teams like he had down at Oregon, they had some rough ones last year where. The Georgia Tech one is the big one where it was like all they had to do is take a knee. They don't. They end up losing in overtime. And I think they got one of the best quarterbacks in the transfer portal in Cam Ward. And Cam at Washington State was someone that he had to do everything. There. Here at Miami, he's got nice weapons around him. He's got a good offensive line to protect him. That defense is going to be good. I think Cam Ward is going to be better and his stats might take a hit, but I think you're going to see the best Cam Ward that you've seen, and he's pretty freaking good. So, and this game, conference championship game in Charlotte, is going to come down to quarterback play, and I give Cam Ward the edge. So I like Miami to win the ACC and be the lone playoff team out of the ACC this year.
Yeah, I'm with you, Dylan. I was thinking about this all week, and I was just like, I don't.
That's why we did it last, because it was like I don't know. I'm not ready to do this one yet. I still wasn't ready to do this one either.
And I'm still not confident now in my prediction. And what I wrote down when you were talking, I was like, do I scrap one team and put another team in there? But to start off with you, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with the Clemson Tigers. Like you said, I know Dabo hasn't embraced the transfer portal, and in terms of NIL opportunities, not a whole lot of boosters down there in Clemson. The town is only 20,000 people, and the football stadium holds 85,000. So that says all you need to know about the community and the surrounding areas there for the Clemson Tigers. But last year, once they really got this offense going with Maffa running the ball, they figured it out, and they won a lot of games, and their offense looked a lot better. And another thing that has been down these last couple of years, Dylan, was their skilled players on offense, their wide receivers. Like, for how many years did Clemson have the best 1, 2, 3 punch in the country? Well, they finally have that with a couple nice true freshmen last year who played. They're sophomores now, and then also a couple freshmen coming in this next year. And then also year 2 in the Garrett Riley offense. I think it's going to be enough, and they're going to continue that momentum that they had to end the year last year, and they're going to get to Charlotte and play in the ACC title game. Because also, you look at the rest of this ACC roster compared to just straight up talent on defense. On paper, Clemson probably has the most, and Dabo's still there in his identity of getting after the quarterback. He's going to help win some games. They're lucky their first game in terms. They're probably going to lose as Georgia in week 1, but that's not an ACC loss. So they got that going for them. Like unless you're like how they lost to Duke the first game of the year.
They got a tough first 2 games, because that App State team is a team that a lot of people are picking as a group of 5 playoff selection. And the other thing too with Clemson is that I didn't even realize until I'm looking it up here, they won their last 5 games to end the year. They had wins over Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Carolina, at South Carolina, and beat Kentucky in the bowl game. So
yeah, and like I said, I think that momentum is just going to kind of carry over, where Dabo's like, you know what, we're not doing the transfer portal. These are our guys, and he can tell them, hey, remember what we did these last 5 games when we got the running game going and we got after the other team's quarterback? That's our recipe to win. And then also, I think when you play a team like Georgia week 1, even though I think Clemson is going to lose, your focus and energy and attention to details is so much higher to start the year. You're not going to have that lull to start the season, because you're starting off with the biggest, baddest wolf in the forest. And even though, you might not win that game, but, come week 2 when you're playing App State, you're already mentally going to be ready for a long, tough football season because you just played Georgia. And the team who I think Clemson is going to play, I went back and forth all week, on this, Dylan. It's a team from Florida. Was it Florida State? Was it Miami? I made up my mind last week, and then last Saturday happened, and I was like, well, you know what? I'm not going to change now. I'm going to stick with Florida State, and
brave.
I'm going to stick with Florida State in the just this aspect. They got a lot of young, inexperienced players on defense. I think they walked into that game in Ireland, and they thought they were better than what they actually were. And they got caught against a Georgia Tech team with a good offense, and they weren't ready to play. Well, Mike Norvell, he's been through thick and thin at that university, and he's built a culture. And I think he's slowly going to be able to get these guys ready to play and develop them into the players they need to be, where come late October, November, they're going to win some games down the stretch, which is going to propel them over Miami and North Carolina State to reach the ACC title game, and they're going to play the Clemson Tigers. And then also, DJ is going to get a little more confidence, and he's slowly going to throw the ball down the field. I'm not saying he's going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate, because what we got against Notre Dame in 2020 will leave us shaking our heads forever about what could have been with that guy. But I think they're slowly going to build this offense throughout the year, and Florida State is going to play Clemson in the ACC title game. But I like the Clemson Tigers to win this division and win this conference, just because, like I said, the continuity on the offense, year 2 in Garrett Riley's system, those young skilled players around there, they're going to take the next step forward. And I think this is a big year for Dabo. He's going to sit back and say, hey, my way works. I don't need to go to the portal, and I don't need the NIL stuff. And he's going to win an ACC championship.
All right. So there we have it. There we have our ACC preview. And let's just transition now that we've previewed every Power 4 conference. That's going to still take some getting used to instead of the Power 5. But we didn't really name out seeds. We're just gonna name our 12 playoff teams, our national championship matchup, and then pick our national champion. And then we're gonna go to curveball, and then we're gonna do our week 1 preview here. So the conference champions I have is Georgia, Michigan, Miami, and Kansas State. Here, those are my 4 at-large the 4 conference champions that are going to get automatic bids here.
And a bye.
And a bye. And then, so I'm going to go with my and the next 5, 7, or 8 are going to be there. It's not in any order here, but I'm going to go with I'll start with my group of 5 team that gets in. And there's part of me that says I want to pick Boise State because that seems like the consensus that everyone's picking. I'm not sure what's happening with the quarterback situation here. The guy from USC transfer.
It's not Malachi Nelson. I know that for a fact.
And it's not Malachi Nelson. I think if he was, there's obviously a reason why he isn't the guy. I think if he did take and actually showed his talent, I think it would be an easy choice. But I'm going to go with another team that's had a lot of success the last few years. I'm going to go with the Tulane Green Wave. Now, I know, and if Willie Fritz were to stay there, I think for sure, I think there'd be a lot more talk about him getting in as the group of 5 nominee here. But I'm going to go with Tulane.
Dylan,
he went to Houston. He went to the lovely city of Houston to be the head coach. He's gonna when the Armchair Banter, when they were doing their Big 12 preview, I said that they are going to ruin some teams. They're going to struggle early in the year, but he's a good enough coach to where by the end of the year, they're going to be clicking on all cylinders. They're going to hate that their season ends because they were playing some of their best football, and they're gonna upset somebody that's going to ruin their shot at any type of bowl or something here. But the other 7 teams here, I have Alabama, Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and my last at-large team, and Grant, hold your breath here, I'm going to go with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, and this is a lot because their schedule sets up beautifully for them. And depending on how, I'm not even sure how the tiebreakers in the Big Ten go. Realistically, when I look at Iowa's schedule, they should be 11-1 with the only loss coming at Ohio State in the Horseshoe. And it'll work out all right for them too, because if the tiebreakers do work out, they would get a bye where they wouldn't have to go to Indy and play. So they would be in at 11-1.
Mm-hmm.
And because they also don't play Oregon, they don't play Michigan. The only team they have to play is Ohio State. And two of those 3 teams are going to be playing in Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship.
Well, and Dylan, what's interesting is when this new Big Ten schedule came out, when they added Washington and Oregon, Iowa's 2 games against the new teams were both Washington and UCLA. The 3 and 4, when you look at the new teams coming into the conference this year, and the other kind of quote big team you could say from the old Big Ten East they have is Michigan State. So,
and who knows what they're going to be?
And who knows what they're going to be? You know, when they wrote the schedule 2 years ago, you would have thought, oh, hey, that's a good game with Mel Tucker, but not anymore. So, you know, it's funny you mentioned that. A lot of teams, a lot of people I've seen recently, there's some money on Iowa making the playoffs.
As it should be. They know what to do. They have an identity. Everybody is bought into it. As long as the offense isn't DFL, you know, they move the ball well enough and can come away with a couple more touchdowns than field goals, capitalize on those turnovers. Why not?
And yeah, it's because the whole defense is coming back. You know, Jay Higgins, Nick Jackson at your linebackers, the whole secondary minus DeJean. But the big thing is I ripped on these guys last year, is the offensive line. They're all coming back. And some people, you know, oh, they were garbage. They sucked last year, yada, yada, yada. That is true. But hopefully with another year of coaching, another year in the weight room, and an opportunity to watch all this game film, maybe they can get better, and then they can put the offense in a better spot to succeed going forward. So we shall see.
And then my national championship matchup is it's going to be a dual. It's going to be a SEC battle here. I have Georgia playing Texas for the second time this season. A lot of people picking Georgia and Texas to play in Atlanta for the SEC championship. I had Georgia, Alabama. I think Texas uses that bye week to get a little bit healthier, and they ride that momentum into the playoff. They take care of business. They get a date with Georgia again. But in the end, I think Georgia's just going to be too much. This is too much of a wagon of a team. You know, Stetson Bennett graduated, who won 2 national titles, and they got better at quarterback. And when we had Tyler Siskey on a couple of weeks ago, he said, Georgia, you don't pick against Georgia until they actually lose, because they haven't lost a regular season game in 3 seasons
to a team.
And the only they've only lost to 2 teams in the last 3 years, and that team is Alabama.
Yeah.
In the SEC championship.
Yeah. I mean, that's a regular season game 3 years in a row. That's incredible. So Dylan, I'll start here in my recap of my 4 conference champions. And for the folks listening, when I'm going to read this off, this is how I see them being seeded 1 through 4 as the 4 conference champions with a bye. I have Georgia as the 1 seed, Ohio State as the 2 seed, Utah winning the Big 12 as the 3 seed, and we just talked about them tonight, Clemson as the 4 seed. And then like you, Dylan, my group of 5 winner, I have Boise State. And for just the sheer reason of this tradition, and the physical style of football they play, the culture that program has there in the Mountain West, I think they're gonna get in the playoff. For all those years when Kellen Moore was playing and Zabransky, when we wish they could have gotten in, I think they get in this year as a group of 5 champion. And does that mean they'll be the 12 seed? Probably, but I don't know. So here's the rest of my playoff, and this is no particular order in terms of seeding, folks. This is just who I feel is gonna make it. It'll be Oregon, Texas, Ole Miss, Michigan, Alabama, Oklahoma State.
Ooh.
Yeah. And Penn State.
And Penn State. Your disappointing team in the Big Ten. Still good enough to get into the playoff.
Yes, I look at that Penn State schedule, and it sets up for them to get in. When I say disappointing in the Big Ten, they're still not going to make the Big Ten title game, but I think just with that schedule and the wins they're going to be able to rack up, they'll be able to get in as one of those last at-large teams. And then also, I just think the SEC is going to beat each other up, Dylan. I truly do believe that the combination of Tennessee, LSU, and Oklahoma, those two teams, and the fact that you got to play Georgia, you got to play Alabama, you got to play Texas A&M. They're going to beat each other up so much that they're going to have that one more loss than Penn State, and Penn State gets in as the 11th seed.
All right.
In my national championship matchup, kind of like you, Dylan, I got the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, that's just a freight train coming down your way, and the one coach who could beat them over the last 2 years is now retired. So they've only lost to one team in the last 2 years.
You're welcome, SEC.
And then that coach decides to hang it up. Who's beating those guys? Because I just don't see it. And I'm with you. I low key really like Carson Beck. I think he's going to take the next step this year. I think they got a lot of good young athletes on their team. Travis Etienne's brother's coming in to be a running back. I think this might be one of the best Georgia offenses we've seen in a while. So they're going to be good. And then the team I have Georgia playing in the national championship game is actually a team who I think is going to lose in their conference title game, and that's going to be the Oregon Ducks.
I knew it. I knew that's who you're going to. When you said they're going to lose in the conference championship game.
Yep. And I just like Oregon because Nick Saban built that empire at Alabama, and then one of his assistants learned from him and has now built this empire at Georgia. And Kirby Smart's old assistant, Dan Lanning, is building something special in Eugene. And that roster is very talented. You bring in Dylan Gabriel, Evan Stewart, the wide receiver from Texas A&M, and they're recruiting extremely well on the defensive side of the ball, where I think they're going to learn from their mistakes when they lost to Ohio State, and they're going to get in the conference title, and they're going to go on a run, and they're going to get to the national championship game, but it's not going to be enough. I think Georgia, they're the best team in the country. I don't think
the teacher shows the student again.
Teacher shows the student again, and I just don't see how anyone can beat Georgia, because the one team that could have beat them was the Michigan team from last year, and they're not there anymore. And of course Alabama, but I got the Dogs winning it again.
All right. And fun fact about Dan Lanning, he is 0-1 in his career against NDSU. He was the defensive backs coach for Sam Houston State in 2014, and NDSU beat him so bad that he ended up having to take a demotion and go to some random school to be a GA in Alabama.
Jeez. So Dan Lanning should say.
Yeah, it was in the college he went to. It was in like Tuscaloosa or something. So I don't know if they have a good football program there or something, but that's where he went to be a GA. So apparently it must have worked out for him or something. But
I do know this: they love their football in that state of Alabama that he went to.
So I had to get that one in there. So before we get to our week one college football preview here.
Hey, Dylan, hold on real quick here. Back to this Ohio State-Michigan game from last year. At the end of the first half, Ohio State misses that field goal. Their kicker did the cardinal sin.
He kicked it,
When Michigan took the timeout to kick before, he still kicked it.
And Ryan Day, he had a lot of time. He let the clock run out. He could have went for it and got his kicker a better shot. Closer. It was like a 50-yard field goal. He coached scared again like he did against Georgia in the semifinal 2 years ago, where CJ got him into field goal range, and then they got really conservative and forced him to take a long kick.
Yeah, I just realized that he had the cardinal sin. He kicked it after the whistle for a timeout. You can't be doing stuff like that.
Nope.
Sorry, go on.
But anyways, so we're gonna do curveball. We're gonna do things a little bit different here. We're gonna go to curveball of the week. We might have to do that. We might do this for the whole show here, where we at the end of the show we pick winners, kind of game day style. So my curveball of the week here. What is a simple but good burn to call somebody?
You know, Dylan, my favorite recently has been walking up to someone and then just, seeing someone at work, like, hey, I'll use my buddy Anthony, for instance. I'll walk up to him and be like, hey, what's up, bedwetter?
That's a good one. I haven't heard that one in a while.
Yeah, it's funny because, we're all in our 30s now. And you should not be.
Whoa. Sorry, I am not in my 30s.
Sorry, us at work. Sorry.
Okay.
Still the young one at work, so I feel good about that. But it's one of those things where it's like we're adults, we should be able to control our bladder, and just walking up and saying someone that, hey, how's it going, bedwetter? I always like that, and then also sometimes I like to say something like this to some coworkers or friends. Even I said this to my dad once, and I go, how does it feel that knowing that you're a man and you pee sitting down?
Ooh, so mine there's a few of them is what's up, butt munch, or
nice.
Or just why are you being such a boner?
That's a good one.
Or the way before we started recording when I put the headphones and pulled the mic up. What's up, dick chicken?
What's up, dick chicken? Or another one was did Rafi say this, Dylan? He said, "Hey, what's up, dick skin?" Or where did I hear that? I thought it was from some TV show.
Or another good one is ass face.
Ah, yes.
The the all time there is a good one. That the one that I remember from it is after Michigan beat Alabama in the Rose Bowl. Dave Portnoy texts Brandon, and Brandon's on the live stream in Chicago watching it. Dave's at the Rose Bowl. He texts Brandon Walker and goes, "SEC can suck my cock, you ass-faced clown."
Another good one is if you're talking about someone in general, you just call them a mouth breather. Like there's nothing worse in the world than just hearing this. It's like when you're right next to someone, it's like, you fat ass, put the fork down and get on the treadmill.
Put the fork down. We should make shirts that say that.
Yeah, so you're not a goddamn mouth breather, in the words of Ruxin.
But all right, well, we got that. Now we're going to go to our week 1 preview here, our college football preview, our game of the week here, Grant. I'll let you start. So what is your college football game of the week?
Well,
week 1. There's some good ones to choose from.
There's some good ones. We're going to go down to the great state of Texas. I want to say College Station. Not a fan of either of these two teams playing. Do not like Notre Dame. Do not like Texas A&M. But this game is huge for both of these programs because now Notre Dame finally has a chance. It's no longer the 14 playoff. Notre Dame has, consistently been, I guess they made a couple playoffs, or they made the one in the 14, but this is their year where it seems like Notre Dame always goes 10-2 and they just miss out on things. Well, this is a year where they can go 10-2 and they could still get a postseason run. And Marcus Freeman can let people know that, hey, you know what? I actually am a good head coach. I'm building something special here. And with the schedule they play every single year, you need to start the year off hot and get a win week 1. And then also
Riley Leonard facing his old head coach.
Yep. And it doesn't help that today that it was reported that Notre Dame's supposed to be a replacement left tackle for Joe Alt's going to be out for the year with a torn pectoral.
Ooh, that's not good.
Yeah, that's not good, especially going into that stadium with just how kind of consistent the noise is. You want to have your big horse out there playing left tackle, so that's not good. And then for Texas A&M, it's a new culture. It's a new regime. With Mike Elko, can he prove that this is different than when Jimbo Fisher was there? They have all the talent in the world, but can he get them to buy in and truly turn this program around and win a big game at home at night? Besides beating Alabama in 2021, when has Texas A&M won a big game in the regular season where people can actually sit back and say, you know what, this team is relevant? They're going to be something to mess with. When they beat Alabama in 2012 with Johnny Manziel?
That game was in Tuscaloosa, though.
It was in Tuscaloosa, though, yeah. So they lost their first game in the SEC to Florida. They lost to Alabama the year after in College Station. Can Texas A&M prove that, you know what, we're a program and we're going to be here to compete with us? It all starts week 1 because you still have to play an SEC schedule. And you have to play Notre Dame week 1. So it's nut-cutting time already for this Texas A&M team. And with just the implications that I laid out for both of these programs, I think it's going to be a hell of a game on Saturday night, and that's my game of the week. Who
you got winning? Texas A&M is a 3-point favorite.
I'm going to go with the road. I'm going to go with the Road Dogs.
Whoa, Grant with the upset. Week 1 start coming in hot.
Yeah.
Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman gets his first big win as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go with the opposite. I'm going to go with Texas A&M. I think Mike Elko had Riley Leonard at Duke. He knows how to get under Riley Leonard's skin. He knows what makes him tick. He's going to find ways, and I think that home crowd, I think this Texas A&M team is hungry to prove everybody wrong of what happened the last couple of years under Jimbo Fisher. I like Texas A&M here, and we're gonna go down. We're just gonna pick winners here, so we're gonna pick some of the bigger games of the week. We're gonna go, Clemson, Georgia. Who you got? Georgia. Yep, me too. The big noon kickoff game, Penn State, West Virginia. Penn State 8-point favorites here. A big game for Penn State, especially if they want to make the playoff. This is almost a must-win for them.
I think Penn State wins, but they only win by 5.
Okay, I would probably be right there with you. We're going to go to one of your playoff teams, Oklahoma State versus South Dakota State. South Dakota State wins this. They've got a chance to break the all-time FCS winning streak record here. So who do you got in this one?
I like Oklahoma State.
I do too. I think there's still Mark Gronowski is a tremendous quarterback. I think right now, there's still a little bit too much newness on this South Dakota State roster that I think Oklahoma State, they're going to come ready and take care of business against Oklahoma State or against South Dakota State.
And I'm not sure, Dylan, I'm not sure South Dakota State is ready for the physicality that Oklahoma State's offense is going to bring, especially with Ollie Gordon. Like in the third quarter, when their legs are tired and it's hot down there in Stillwater, I think they're eventually going to lose their will to live.
So, Miami versus Florida, big game for both these programs. This might be whoever loses this game, the hot seat down there is getting way hotter.
Oh yeah, and you look at that Florida schedule this year. My gosh. You got like Sanford week 2, but then after that you have UCF and Florida State in that SEC schedule. Brutal. I'm going to go with the Hurricanes.
Okay. I picked Miami on the road. Miami winning this game. 2.5-point road favorites. I picked Miami to win the ACC. I'm sticking with that. I think they start the year off hot and they ride that momentum. And then we got USC, LSU. The over. I'll answer this first. The over. The over's at 64.5. Take the over.
Take the over and give me LSU.
Okay. I'm rooting for the offense because that's my over game of the week here. Yeah. So free money, you're welcome. And then you know what? We're gonna go over
to the MAC here. And we're going to go, let's see here. What would be a good one? Miami of Ohio versus Northwestern. Who you got? Northwestern, 3-point favorites.
Dude, call me crazy. For some reason, this has Miami of Ohio upset written all over it, doesn't it?
Well, Miami of Ohio is a team that I was looking at that they are a sleeper team for that at-large, that Group of 5 bid.
Mm-hmm.
And Northwestern won a lot of close games last year, second year under David Braun. I think a lot of his success could be, to his credit, galvanizing the rest of the team emotional. How is that going to rub off? They went, and he made some good changes. He got rid of their offensive coordinator, brought in Zach Lujan from South Dakota State to kind of help bring that offense along. They've got some nice pieces on offense, good running backs, some good receivers. What are you going to get out of the quarterback? I think the defense is still going to be good, which is always a Northwestern staple. So I'm going to go with the Wildcats to sneak out a close one. This might be I don't know if I would pick Northwestern to cover, but I think this game comes down to the last drive. So,
yeah, you're right. I go Northwestern.
So, all right. Well, my game of the week, I think it's pretty obvious. I already teased it earlier here. Is NDSU-Colorado, a game that I've had circled on my calendar long, especially when it was announced that Deion Sanders was getting hired to be the head coach at Colorado, and I've been steady in my stance that NDSU is going to win this game. And I'm not going to lie. I'm a lot more nervous than what I used to be, Grant. Colorado, 10-point favorites. This is, the keys to the game is going to be NDSU brings back an experienced front four. And that's going to be the key, especially on defense, is keeping Shadur in the pocket, forcing him, because Shadur, he took 56 sacks last year, and the offensive line for Colorado was bad. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of those sacks were also his fault because he refused to get rid of the ball trying to extend plays and ended up getting hit. He ended up missing a couple of games because of injuries here. If they're able to keep Shadur in the pocket and get hits on him early and often, not allow those receivers for Colorado to get up over the top. Colorado is bringing in 40-some transfers this year. Going to be starting 5 new offensive linemen. I think NDSU, I give them the advantage there. And then on the other side of the ball, the big thing for NDSU is I think NDSU is going to move the ball well. I think they're going to win time of possession, but as we've said on this show, time of possession is a very overrated stat, because NDSU, they can go on some 6-7 minute drives, take the air out of the stadium, take the air out of the ball. But Colorado can strike like that. And if NDSU does not end those long 10, 12, 13 play drives and touchdowns, it's going to be tough sledding. They have to come away with touchdowns. They got to dial up some things. Cole Payton's going to be an X factor in that second quarterback. I worry about the receivers. Losing Eli Green is tough, but I still think they're going to be able to run the ball well enough. Are they going to be able to do it effectively? They can't have the mental mistakes that have cost them in big games under Matt Entz. The false starts, the penalties, where they have good drives going and then they stall out because they fall behind the sticks and aren't able to get ahead or manage it and end up having to settle for field goals. But losing Cole Wisniewski on the back end, who's their All-American safety, could have went to turned down some big money NIL offers to stay at NDSU. It sounds like he is probably not going to play at all this year because he's still recovering from a foot injury here. But, the big thing, like I said earlier, if NDSU is able to get pressure with 4 guys and drop 7 into coverage, put a bracket over Travis Hunter, and trust that he's going to be able to get hit and force him to throw the ball before he wants to, I think NDSU might be able to force him into some turnovers. But prediction time here. So, Grant, I've been pretty steady, but some of the news it's been that Wisniewski injury really worries me. It does. It does. I've been running my mouth, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for it, but I'm gonna have to do this. I gotta go with the Buffs.
You son of a bitch.
Actually, no, I don't. No, I don't. Give me the Bison, baby. Let's go. Roll herd, horns up.